Have you ever found yourself in a heated argument, desperately wanting to come out on top, but unsure of how to gain the upper hand? If you're watching this video, it means you're not just an average person. You're seeking to improve your communication skills and master the art of persuasion. Today, we're diving into 11 dark psychology tricks that can help you win any argument. These strategies are powerful, so use them ethically and responsibly. Let's get started and explore how you can gain the advantage in any debate or disagreement. Number 1, control your tone and volume. The way you speak can significantly influence how your arguments are received. Controlling your tone and volume helps convey confidence and authority. Speak clearly with a steady tone and avoid raising your voice. This approach makes you seem more rational and in control, which can make your opponent's arguments appear weaker by comparison. For example, during a heated debate, maintaining a calm and steady voice can diffuse tension and make your points more persuasive. Imagine you're in a meeting where everyone is getting increasingly loud and emotional. By keeping your tone calm and measured, you stand out as the voice of reason, which can sway others to your side. Number 2, use logical fallacies to your advantage. Understanding logical fallacies and how to use them can be a powerful tool in winning arguments. While it's unethical to base your entire argument on fallacies, recognizing and subtly using them can put your opponent on the defensive. For example, the straw man fallacy involves misrepresenting your opponent's argument to make it easier to attack. Suppose you're debating climate change and your opponent argues for economic growth over environmental regulations. You might exaggerate their stance to imply they don't care about the environment at all, making it easier to counter. However, be cautious, as this can backfire if your opponent recognizes what you're doing. Number 3, appeal to emotion. People are often swayed by their emotions more than by logic. Use emotional appeals to connect with your audience and make your argument more compelling. Share personal stories or vivid examples that evoke strong emotions. For instance, if you're arguing about environmental protection, a story about a suffering animal can evoke empathy and support for your stance. Consider the powerful impact of a story about a family affected by pollution versus a dry recitation of statistics. The emotional connection can be a powerful tool in persuading others. Number 4, use the contrast principle. The contrast principle involves presenting two contrasting ideas or options to make one seem more favorable. For instance, if you're trying to persuade someone to agree to a smaller request, start by presenting a larger, less appealing option first. When you follow up with the smaller request, it will seem more reasonable in comparison. This technique can make your argument more persuasive by manipulating the perceived value or impact of your proposals. For example, if you want a friend to volunteer for a 2-hour shift, start by asking them to commit to a whole day. When they balk, you can suggest the 2-hour shift, which will then seem much more manageable. Number 5, ask leading questions. Asking leading questions can guide your opponent towards the conclusion you want them to reach. Frame your questions in a way that the answers support your argument. For example, if you're arguing about the importance of exercise, you might ask, "Don't you agree that regular physical activity improves overall health?" This technique can subtly influence your opponent to concede points in your favor. Another example is during a negotiation. Wouldn't you say that meeting halfway is the most fair solution? This kind of question nudges your opponent towards your desired outcome. Number 6, leverage the recency effect. The recency effect refers to the tendency for people to remember the most recent information presented to them. Use this to your advantage by saving your strongest points for the end of the argument. By concluding with compelling evidence or a powerful statement, you leave a lasting impression on your audience, making it more likely that your argument will be remembered and accepted. For example, in a business presentation, end with a striking statistic or a compelling story that underscores your main message, ensuring it's the takeaway that sticks with your audience. Number 7, reframe the argument. Reframing the argument involves changing the perspective from which the argument is viewed. By presenting the issue in a new light, you can make your position seem more favorable. For example, instead of arguing about the cost of a product, reframe the discussion to focus on its value and benefits. This shift can make your argument more persuasive and harder to counter. If you're discussing employee benefits, instead of focusing on the expense, highlight how these benefits improve employee satisfaction and retention, ultimately saving money in the long run. Number 8, establish authority. People are more likely to listen to and be persuaded by someone they perceive as an authority on a subject. Establish your credibility early in the argument by mentioning your experience, knowledge, or qualifications. For example, if you're debating a health topic, you might reference your background in medical studies or personal experience with the issue. Establishing authority can make your arguments more convincing and difficult to refute. Imagine you're in a debate about climate change, and you can cite your years of experience working in environmental science. This credibility can make your points more compelling. Number 9, point out inconsistencies. Highlighting inconsistencies in your opponent's argument can undermine their credibility. Listen carefully and identify contradictions in their statements. Politely pointing out these inconsistencies can put them on the defensive and weaken their position. For example, if they say they care about the environment but support policies that harm it, you can question their commitment to their stated values. Another example is if they argue for freedom of speech but then advocate for censorship in specific cases. Pointing out this contradiction can weaken their stance. Number 10, use the anchoring effect. The anchoring effect involves setting a reference point around which negotiations or arguments are based. By presenting a strong initial position, you can influence the perception of what is reasonable. For example, in a salary negotiation, starting with a high figure sets an anchor that makes subsequent offers seem more acceptable. Similarly, in arguments, framing the discussion around a particular point can make your stance seem more reasonable. For instance, if you're negotiating a project timeline, proposing an extended timeline first can make your actual desired timeline seem more reasonable. Number 11, build a coalition. Sometimes, winning an argument isn't about overpowering your opponent, but about gaining support from others. Build a coalition by finding common ground with other participants or observers in the discussion. When you have others on your side, it can reinforce your position and create a sense of consensus. This social support can make it harder for your opponent to counter your arguments effectively. In a team meeting, if you can get a few key members to agree with your proposal, it creates momentum that can sway the undecided. Conclusion. Mastering these dark psychology tricks can give you a significant advantage in any argument. Remember to use these strategies ethically and responsibly, as the goal is to foster healthy and productive discussions, not to manipulate or deceive. If you found these tips helpful, don't forget to like the video, share your thoughts in the comments below, and subscribe to our channel. Hit the bell icon to stay updated with our latest content. Thanks for watching.